Welcome to this complete masterclass on CISM Domain 1 Information Security Governance. If you are preparing for the CISM exam, this domain is extremely important because it forms the foundation of how organizations manage information security at a strategic level. So many candidates struggle here not because the concepts are difficult, but because they approach them with a technical mindset instead of a managerial one. In this session, I will explain everything in a simple, structured, and exam focused way. We will cover key concepts, real world examples, and most importantly, how to think like a CISM professional. So, let's begin. CISM Domain 1 focuses on information security governance. But what does governance really mean? So, governance is about ensuring that security supports the organization's business objectives. It is not about tools, software, or configurations. It is about decision making, direction, and accountability. Let's take an example. A company may want to expand into digital services. So, governance will ensure that security is aligned with the goal and it will protect customer data while enabling business growth. In CISM, you have to always remember this mindset that security exists to support business, not to block it. This is one of the most important principles you must understand. So, governance versus management. This is one of the most heavily tested concepts in CISM. Governance and management are closely related, but they are not the same. So, what is governance? Governance is about setting direction. It will answer the questions like what should we do? Why should we do it? This responsibility lies with senior leadership, typically the board of directors. And management, on the other hand, it is about execution. So the management will answer how do we can do it, who will do it, and when will it be done. So let's take an example. The board decides that cyber risk must be reduced due to increasing threats. That is actually governance. The security team implements firewalls, monitoring tools, and training programs. That is management. So, in the exam, the keywords are very important. If the question mentions strategy, direction, or oversight, you have to choose governance. And if it mentions implementation or operations, you have to choose management. So, this distinction alone can help you answer many questions correctly. So, why governance matters? Governance is critical because it ensures alignment, accountability, and control. Without governance, security efforts become fragmented. Different teams may implement different controls without a unified direction. This leads to inefficiency, increased risk, and wasted resources. So, governance will ensure that security investments are justified, risk are, risks are properly managed, and responsibilities are clearly defined. It also ensures compliance with laws and regulations. But most importantly, governance ensures that security decisions are made at the right level, not randomly by technical teams. So, in simple terms, governance ensures that the organization is doing the right things. Risk management basics. So, risk management is actually the heart of CISM. Every decision in information security should be based on the risk. The process starts with identifying risks, then we assess their likelihood and impact. Based on that, we decide how to treat them. There are four main options: mitigate the risk, transfer the risk, accept the risk, and avoid the risk. Let's take an example. If a system is vulnerable, we may patch it. This is mitigation. If we buy insurance, that is risk transfer. If the risk is low, we may accept it. So, in the exam, always remember, you have to remember this always. Never jump to a technical solution first. Always you have to think, what is the risk? What is the impact? What is the best business decision? The risk, this risk-based thinking is what distinguishes CISM from purely technical certifications. Now let's discuss on risk appetite versus risk tolerance. At first glance, they may sound similar, but they represent two different levels of decision making. Risk appetite is the overall level of risk that an organization is willing to accept in order to achieve its business objectives. It is actually defined at the strategic level, usually by senior management or the board. It reflects the organization's mindset towards risk, whether it is conservative, moderate, or aggressive. Let's take an example. A startup company may have a high risk appetite because it is willing to take bold decisions to grow quickly. On the other hand, a financial institution may have a very low risk appetite because stability and trust are critical for them. Now, risk tolerance is more specific. It defines the acceptable level of variation or deviation from the desired outcome. In simple terms, it sets the boundaries within the broader risk appetite. Let's make this very clear with an example. An organization may have a moderate risk appetite overall. However, it may define a very strict risk tolerance for system downtime. For example, no more than 1 hour of downtime per month. So even if the organization accepts some level of risk, it does not tolerate disruption beyond a certain limit. Another example we can take regarding data breaches. A company might accept some operational risks but have zero tolerance for unauthorized access to sensitive customer data. So think of it in this way. Risk appetite is the bigger picture, how much risk we are comfortable for taking, and risk tolerance is the limit, how much deviation we can allow in specific areas. So in the CISM exam, questions may try to confuse you between these two. So there is a simple trick. If the question is about overall strategy or general willingness to take risk, the answer will be risk appetite. If the question is about limits, thresholds, or acceptable deviation, the answer is risk tolerance. So understanding this distinction is not only important for the exam, but it is also critical in real world decision making. Because organizations do not manage risk randomly, they define clear boundaries and operate within them. And that is exactly what governance is all about. So let's discuss on policies, standards, and procedures. Now let's explore the another extremely important concept. This is the relationship between policies, standards, and procedures. So this hierarchy is fundamental to how organizations implement governance in a structured and consistent way. So let us begin with policies. Policies are high level statements that will define the organization's intentions and direction. They answer the question, what must be done? Policies are usually approved by senior management or the board, and they reflect the organization's goals, values, and risk appetite. For example, a policy might state that all sensitive data must be protected. So you can notice that it does not explain how, it simply sets the expectation. Now, moving one level down, we have standards. Standards are more detailed than policies. Standards will define the specific requirements that must be followed to support the policy. So, a standard will answer the question, what exactly is required? For example, a standard may require that all sensitive data must be encrypted using a specific algorithm, that is AES-256. So standards ensure consistency across the organization. Everyone follows the same baseline requirements. Finally, we have procedures. Procedures at the most detailed level, they provide step-by-step instructions on how to implement standards. They answer the question, how do we actually do this? For example, a procedure would describe how to configure encryption on a system, including the exact steps and tools to use. So let's summarize this clearly. Policies define direction, standards define requirements, procedures define implementation. So now let's connect this to governance. Policies are part of governance, they are strategic and approved by leadership. Standards and procedures, they will fall under management. They are operational and implemented by teams. In the CISM exam, questions often test your understanding of this hierarchy. For example, if a question asks for a high level directive, the correct answer is usually a policy. If it asks for consistency or enforcement, the answer is likely a standard. If it asks for detailed steps, the answer will be a procedure. So another important point is that policies should be clear, concise, and aligned with business objectives. Standards should be enforceable and measurable. Procedures should be practical and easy to follow. If any of these are missing or unclear, the entire governance structure becomes weak, and that can lead to confusion, inconsistency, and increased risk. So always remember this flow: policy, then standards, then procedure. From strategy to execution. Understanding this hierarchy is essential, not just for passing the exam, but for building a strong and effective security program in real life. Now, let's discuss on roles and responsibilities. Clear roles and responsibilities are essential for governance. The board provides strategic direction and oversight. The CIO ensures alignment between IT and business. And the CISO manages and implements the security program. So, users are responsible for the following policies. If roles are unclear, accountability is lost. So, in the exam, always choose answer that improve clarity and accountability. Avoid answers where responsibilities are mixed or undefined. So let's discuss on security metrics. So what does metric do? Metrics help organizations measure performance and risk. There are two main types of metrics. One is key performance indicators or KPIs, which is measure how well processes are working. And another one is KRI or key risk indicators. It measure exposure to the risk. So for example, patch compliance rate, it is a KPI. Number of unpatched vulnerabilities, this is a KRI. So metrics should always be meaningful and aligned with business objectives. Collecting data is not just enough. It must support decision making. So now we will discuss on alignment of business and IT. So alignment between business and IT is one of the main goals of governance. IT should not operate independently. It must support business strategy. This requires strong communication between leadership and IT teams. The Chief Information Officer CIO plays a key role in ensuring this alignment. If IT is not involved in strategic discussions, decisions will be made without technical insight. This leads to misalignment and increased risk. So in CISM, alignment is always a priority. So these are the common CISM exam traps. First, you have to avoid overly technical answers. CISM focuses on management, not configuration. Second, always prioritize business objectives. Security is not actually the goal. Business success is the goal. And third, avoid quick fixes. CISM prefers structured, long-term solutions. And fourth, always think in terms of process and governance. So questions are actually designed to test your mindset. If you think like a manager, you will choose the correct answer. So let's see a real world example. A company experiences increasing cyber threats. The board decides to reduce risk. This is governance. The CISO implements controls such as monitoring systems, employee training, and incident response plans. This is management. The organization tracks performance using KPIs and KRIs. They continuously improve controls based on feedback. This is a complete governance cycle in action. So what are the key takeaways from this masterclass? So governance defines direction, management executes that direction. Security must always align with business objectives. Risk-based decision making is essential. Policies, standards, and procedures must be clearly defined, and continuous improvement is necessary for long-term success. So thank you for joining this masterclass on CISM Domain 1. If this helped you, make sure to follow for more content on CISM, cybersecurity, and cloud security. And always remember, think like a manager, not a technician. That is the key to passing CISM and succeeding in real world security roles. See you in the next session. Bye bye.